welcome to episode 420 of Control Talk Now, where we talk about all things HVAC and smart building controls, including sales and marketing. My name is Eric Stromquist. I am so glad you are here. So imagine that you and your brother are young kids in a different country. Imagine hearing bombs and gunfire 24/7. Imagine seeing your home blown up right in front of you. And then your parents leaving everything behind and taking you and your brother away from your home on a journey that would eventually lead you to the United States. Imagine with that kind of start in life, forming a company that is one of the most innovative solution providers in our industry. Well, in just a few minutes, you will hear this story and more from my guest this week. But before we hear this truly inspiring story, a word from the sponsor of this week's show, Johnson Controls. I've been a Johnson Controls distributor for over 40 years, and I can tell you JCI makes great products, has great people, and great technical support. Not that they really need the technical support all that much. And what I mean by that is that in my experience with Johnson Controls, when they introduce a product into the marketplace, the product just works. We've all had the experience of companies bringing a product into the marketplace without all the bugs being worked out. Sometimes it feels like we're beta testers for these companies, but not so with JCI. In my over 40 years of selling their products, I can't remember ever having a problem with a new product launch. They just won't bring a product out until it's ready. They have a complete portfolio of products from refrigeration controls and chillers to light commercial solutions like Verisys to full-blown building automation control systems, including fire and security. The team at Johnson Controls is innovative, honest, and easy to work with. So next time you're at your local distributor, ask them what Blue can do for you. You'll be happy with what happens next. And if you'd like to sponsor a show and be heard by the Control Trends community, click on the link in the show notes and I'll hook you up. If you got the products, I have the platform. All right, before we get to our guest, let's touch base with Danielle Radden, our very own marketing savant, who has agreed to come on the show, and answer your marketing questions. Okay, I got another marketing question this week. It's all about marketing plans. Hopefully you have a marketing plan. Hopefully you have a marketing strategy. But if you don't, where do you get started? I'm asking our marketing savant, Danielle Radden from TalkingWallsMarketing.com. I'm going to ask her that question as soon as I can get her on. Okay, hey, Danielle, welcome to Control Talk Now. Boy, do we have a question for you.
Hit me.
Hit you. Oh, no, I can't do that in this day. How was your week?
It was good.
Yeah?
Busy.
Yeah, exciting. I hear there's news that we might have another podcast coming out. Is any truth to that rumor?
There's a lot of truth to it. It's what duct tape can't fix. My father used to tell me growing up that you can fix anything with WD-40 or duct tape. But I've realized there's something you can't fix with duct tape, and our buildings are broken. So I am going to do a little bit of a deep dive and figure out exactly how they're broken and try to understand a little bit more of the problems that surround our built environment.
Cool. And you'll be sharing that on your podcast, right?
Yeah.
Sounds like a great concept. It sounds like the type of podcast that came up from somebody who has a marketing plan and a marketing strategy. One of my old running mates, I am that old, was a guy named Napoleon, and he had a statement that planning is invaluable, but most plans are useless. What's the first step to getting started with a marketing strategy or plan?
Napoleon is right. But the very first step of any marketing strategy is always to know where you're going. And I always tell people the first thing you need to do is come up with your value proposition. Your marketing strategy is like your compass. It's going to guide you, but you have to know which way is north. You have to know where you're going. You have to know where your company is going. Okay.
Now, when we talk about a value proposition, I've got all kinds of visions in my head of something that maybe you hear people with their mission statement, and you have other people that got these 50-page value propositions or whatever. Give me an example of what a value proposition should include.
Yeah. A super easy one. Think about Walmart. Walmart's value is everyday low prices. They're able to track that by asking themselves, are they delivering their customers low prices every day? And they can set up their entire company to make sure that they can focus on that one value.
Cool. So that, yeah, every decision that goes through filters through that one value. I love it. So for example, your new podcast, right? Coming up, value prop may be something like to get to listen to a marketing savant talk for 15 minutes at a time without being interrupted. Is that something like that?
I think my value proposition for my new podcast is marketing always starts with the market's problems. And
nice.
So I always want to focus back on what is the problem that the market is dealing with.
Okay, cool. So step one is obviously the value prop. What's next?
After the value prop, then we get into a little bit of organization. They've done studies and they've determined that you are 600% more likely to succeed if you're organized. What that means is don't just do something because you had an idea. Plan it out, have a process, repeat that process, and then track all of the results. Go back, be able to look through your files, really understand what you're doing.
Makes a lot of sense because you got to have feedback if you're going to course correct, right? So,
oh, yes.
Danielle, what I'm getting out of this is it's a wonder that Control Trends has been around since 2006 because I am the most unorganized person in the world. And my value proposition is I just talk a lot. No, it's like I'm the game show host of the controls industry. That's it. Okay, cool.
I like that value proposition. Yeah.
It's not bad.
It keeps it real. It's fun.
Yeah, nice. I like that. I knew there was things I liked about you. This is great. All right, so we got our value prop. We've got organized, which means different things to different people. But bottom line, I think what you're saying is you lay things out so you can take a logical approach. What's next?
After organization, we're going through the whole steps. Once you've got your value proposition and your organization, you want to start planning some experiments to try to find your traction channel.
Oh, traction channel. Now that sounds pretty interesting. What does that mean in regular people's terms? Traction channel. Right. I love traction channel. I'm going to use that. But what does that mean? Traction channel is?
It essentially is what's the best way that people are getting to see your content, whether it's they see your content or they're looking at your brand or they're understanding who you are. They are seeing your value.
Okay. And that sort of gets back to the organization again, right? Because if you decide LinkedIn and YouTube are it or LinkedIn and Twitter are it, then you focus on those. Absolutely. And I think the other thing to agree or disagree, don't get too stuck up on your content, how good it is, right? You got to give yourself a break and just do it.
Oh, yes. Yeah. You said it, that nobody is going to listen to the first one. You have to build an audience, especially if you're just starting out. Yeah. If this is new to you, don't worry about it. Just practice.
No, practice is the key. It really is. And something that is good to practice on if you're trying to do videos. And I make a vlog type video every single day. Only about 2% of them I ever post, but I do it because of the practice. But if you wanted to practice, a great way to do that would be to do the short little videos and put them on Instagram stories, right? Because they go away 24 hours later. So they're just gone, right?
You're off and running.
Right. And I hear you. And I understand that you're willing to give people a free 15-minute brainstorming call if they want to get hop on a Zoom call with you to talk about their marketing strategy. And so what's the best way for people to get hold of you if they want to just, hey, I'm not sure where to start. I've got a plan. I don't know where it's good or not. You're the savant. I know you normally charge clients a free 15-minute call. Does that make sense for people if they want to do that?
Oh, yeah. And if we enjoy talking to each other, I might even bump it up to 20.
Nice. Okay, so I'll put a link in the show notes so they can get hold of you for that. And that's a great offer. And come back next week.
Oh, yeah.
Danielle, thank you so much. Really appreciate the knowledge you're passing on to our community. I'll probably have another question next week. So if you're around, I might be hitting you up with it. That's Danielle Radden, TalkingWallsMarketing.com. Check her out. Code Labs, not Code Red. Code Labs, man. Really cool product that I first learned about at ControlsCon at Cochran Supply. Product's been around for a while, so it just shows my naivety, but I am so excited today to introduce the community to this product and to introduce us to our guest, Etrit Demaj from Code Labs. Etrit, man, thanks for taking time to speak with us.
Hey, Eric, I really appreciate you having me on today. I'm a big fan.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate that for sure. Good stuff. Walk me through your journey. So you didn't come from South Georgia, maybe, but not South Georgia in the United States. So walk us through your journey. How did you and your brother get here, and how did Code Labs come into being?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. So Eddie and I were born in a country called Kosovo, and we moved to Detroit in 1999. I think Eddie and myself, our other co-founder G, and the rest of the team, I think how we started the company. And the name was the KO stands for Kosovo and DE stands for Detroit. We always want to have, so
nice.
We always like to have meaning behind what we do. Yeah. Because when you put meaning behind things, I think that you find the right people that can drive the vision and the mission all the way to as far as you need it to go to make sure that our clients are really happy, and so are any end users altogether. But we're refugees from Kosovo. We were lucky. We're blessed to be in this country. If it wasn't for the United States and the neighboring countries and the NATO altogether, which is a really relevant subject these days, I don't think Eddie and I would be here. Sure as hell there would be no code labs. Yeah. We went through a lot of different things to get here, but this is the place of opportunity where everybody gives you, if you do the right things come here.
Dude, I love it. And I saw Eddie speak on it. He did a TED Talk, which was really inspiring. Yeah. I'll probably link to that in the show notes. But man, it really is such a success story. And you guys, I really admire you because you went after, and I'm going to let you tell the story, but it's once you got the company up and going, and I'll have you tell that part of it, but then you guys went after just like the biggest fish in the sea, man, and you landed it. I have huge respect for that, man. That's just something that I have mad respect for that. But okay, so you get over here, man, you're happy, you're in Detroit, and 99, so you realize it was a war zone there too, right? Not like it is now, but so you get into Detroit, so what happens next?
Yeah, no, so like from our perspective, right? So the 99 we move here, we come from a complete war zone where we had to go through, our house gets blown up. I was 10 years old when we left the country. Yeah, Eddie was 14. We had to sleep at the border in a car with 8 people in one car sleeping together, 2 different families for 3 nights. Not much food. We had just a piece of salami, but at that time it was normal, to be honest, which sounds crazy, right? And as we were leaving the war, because there's so much you can talk about there, but our mom, what she did was the part of your jeans where you put your belt in, it's sewed together there. She unsewed it. She put all of our family's life savings in there at the time for Eddie and I. And she said, look, if we get killed, if we get taken, or you get taken, or we get lost, or whatever the case is, you're talking to a 10-year-old, right? Yeah. Start ripping this part up little by little, because no one's going to look here, and start taking money out and paying people to get out of the country. Wow. So we had to live with, you don't think about it at that time, but like that really probably shapes you. And hopefully for the better, because you see a lot of bad. As we got to the United States, we went to school. Our parents, my mom was an elementary school teacher. My dad was a math professor. He had his own private school, and then he was also in the parliament, which is like, the Senate here, as you would say. And going from that to working, our dad worked like 5 jobs. Like the guy was working 20 hours a day. Wow. And my mom, she worked in a factory where, making car parts for a long time. And Eddie's and I's goal was always, what we saw as success is really to get our parents out of that kind of environment, especially because they risked so much for us. And that's, I think the day we were able to do that is like probably one of the best days of our lives, to be honest with you. And,
man, what a story, Etrit, man. I'm glad you guys are here and glad things worked out. So mom and dad still with us?
Yeah, and I'll just add a little bit more to this. What makes like America, United States, even Canada, and a lot of these different countries that we don't realize, like what we get and the opportunities and just the hard, like you're taught a lot of really great things. But if you can mesh that, but what's actually more important is that you're taught these amazing things. You get some of the best education, best people around, and you're also taught to love your culture where you come from, right? So like meshing that together and diversifying more and more, that's like I would not say that we're successful. I want to make that really clear. We have so much to go, but it's a little bit of our recipe to try to build the best teams that you can build, because people build amazing things and people take great care of people.
The theme it seems to be is that you guys really value people, right? And given your background, it makes so much sense. So I suspect that your employees and your customers love working with you guys. So how did the concept of Code Labs come about?
Yeah. So Eddie and I have been dabbling in different things since we were younger. We always wanted to do more in software. As we were landing in the United States, actually, our first state that we landed in was in New York City. It was one of the airports there. And I remember to this day, we flew in, and in my eyes, and I think in Eddie's eyes too, you see all these high-rises, right? And you can notice the Empire State Building from anywhere. We didn't even know what the Empire State Building really was till we learned more and more about it. But that kind of tied us together because I don't know if this is true or not. Watching your home get blown up, watching all these buildings get torn into pieces, coming into a country with like just these beautiful high rises and amazing places, and then being able to have the opportunity to start to dabble in startups and do different things really allows you to think outside the box, think bigger, and know that you can do it. Know that you can. It's not just thinking and dreaming. You know that it will happen, and it will continue to happen if you do the right thing. So I was in this space previously with another company as well, and Eddie was in the infrastructure space on the fiber side. And I always did everything together, so all of our businesses were together. But started really noticing that from a system integrator perspective and a controls company, and even an MSI, we would use software that was good software, like not bad software at all, but really hard to scale because it was like very custom every single time to a specific building. It's very hard to grab that same data and information and send it out or deploy into many other buildings. And every time we deploy that into more than one building for a client, within 6 months, there was too many issues because there was a lot of underlying technologies under it, which made it hard to even service it, to support it, and it made it really tough to give the best client service. Kind of had an idea, really wanted to build something that other industries were doing already. So we saw some of the challenges, learned a little bit, but really learned a lot as we went forward with code. And then spending more and more time with the industry. And then from Eddie's perspective and G's perspective and our other team members, what made it even more special is we brought a team together that our CTO and other co-founder that we have, he was already developing enterprise platforms through his software development shop. They were doing IoT in England. They were doing mobile apps all over the world. Eddie understood the fiber space, network space, and then I had experience directly in this industry. So combining more and more of that and bringing those teams together, I remember the first time we dropped the platform and we saw the demo, and our team members who have been in the space for a while. I was Tavis, who's been here basically who's been here from the start as well. The first deployment that we did was a different way of thinking of how we would typically tag and template and do these different points. And I remember Tavis was like, because he was really helping drive the product side too. He was just like, I never thought about it this way, but man, does this save me a lot of time. And nice. What happened there was getting these different minds together and then letting some of the team members really think outside the box of how you typically think in other industries already. So what that taught us from the get-go was that like, hey, there actually is a lot more opportunity in this industry because we're so stuck sometimes in the weeds as an industry and we forget to go out.
There's a saying that I like, Etrit, called, we're not sure who discovered water, but we're pretty sure it wasn't a fish. Right? Yeah. So cool. So you guys are seeing things differently. Sounds like you had some really happy unintended consequences, but they came about from bringing different people in, looking at a problem from different perspectives. And so you guys found ways to make things more efficient. So what happened next?
Yeah, we always wanted to be the smart building cloud with the right applications for any of your smart building use cases, right? And at that time, in 2018, really was when we started showing it. Really, when we started showing it to people more was like late 2019 and going into 2020. But 2018 and 19 was when we were deploying our first client, which is Bedrock here in downtown Detroit. They really believed in us. And one of the reasons why they believed in us was, first, they had some different experiences, but the other part was that we were able to right off the bat save them a good amount of money on their deployments, as well as help them scale faster and give them more modules and tools for the same price at once. And how we were able to do that was we built a cloud product. It's just that simple.
Okay. So you guys embraced the cloud early when people were putting servers on each building or whatever, and you realized that you were never going to be able to scale very quickly doing it that way. So you guys were always thinking in terms of scaling.
Yes. If we wanted to do something, different, which now is becoming more and more the norm, right? But people would always tell us, hey, no, cloud's not safe. No, don't talk to me, cloud. Don't talk to cloud. So for a little bit, it was a challenge because you're like, okay, are we just like crazy or what? But
no, I remember back when people first started talking about cloud, and you're right, there was a lot of pushback with the building automation space on cloud not being the way to go. But anyway, I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
No, I think that's it. So our vision is that software leads hardware in everything that you do, right? Other than really our industry at the time, more and more. It's becoming very real now because you have even the bigger guys like some of those big four names and the startups and everybody else pushing that. Because if you don't have the right data, that's where we get stuck and we make a lot of excuses. But another thing that our industry is like, we forget sometimes is like, they're like, oh, it takes too long to deploy, or no, it's just too complicated. Some of those complications are starting to go away because owners, corporations, everybody, were making a lot more decisions locally. And now they're starting to make decisions at the top level, just because in a company, any company that you're like in, right? Even if you have 10 people, 100 people, 5,000 people, you don't usually make the decisions here. You make the decisions here, right? So that if you start to make the decisions here, you see the world a little bit differently while still getting the feedback and getting your whole company on board, you create magic. But if you start to make decisions without seeing everything, then of course your buildings are going to be hard. And then the proprietary companies will start to lock you in and think that your systems in your building are actually their systems. They're not, because you've actually paid
So well said, Eddie. So well said, Etrit. So well said, man. Yeah. Okay, so you guys braced the cloud early, saw it, brought your genius to that. So you guys were proponents of the cloud. But tell me the story. I read about this, but I want to hear it from you. Tell me the story about how you guys landed the first big client. I think that it's safe to say that changed everything for you guys. If I got that wrong, you can correct me.
No, you got it. You're spot on. It was really during COVID. That's when we productized as a company. We were starting to go to market, do demos, and people were definitely, we could tell right away that, hey, the reviews were really good and we were heading in the right direction, because at that time we were talking about workflows, scaling. Cloud was already in our toolbox. So as these things were becoming the things to talk about, we had them. We had the modules that connected together. Quadrille Properties Group. Quadrille is an international giant now and continuing to grow more in not just the commercial space, but in many different industries. They ran an RFP in Vancouver, Canada, and it was for the Amazon second headquarters that was coming in, that was going to be taking the whole space there. When they ran that RFP, their RFP was, when we started reading that, or we said to ourselves, like, this, we are definitely heading in the right direction. That kind of started really stamping our concept and proving that the industry is moving forward, even if it's not as fast as we want it to be. So that, when you look at that RFP and you're a system integrator, or when you're an MSI or a big four or somebody that's been selling software in our space, you look at that and you're like, cha-ching, I'm about to get $3 million in my pocket right now. It's going to be great. And I can live on for a little bit more. Like, I can have some crazy profits here. Chances of you actually meeting those use cases are going to be really hard, right? We started talking more. The way we understood it was, we took a chance and we said, okay, Quadrille. Then as we were doing that, they opened up another RFP with their joint venture Stream Realty in Texas. And it was a lot of the same model. So we said, this is exactly like what cloud can help you do. This is exactly what our software can help you do. When you think of the Salesforce and the other models in our in other spaces, if you start to plug something in somewhere, you should be able to use, if not 100% of that thing, at least 60 to 80 to 90% in other buildings. So then there's that infrastructure side, right?
Yeah.
The deployment is parts of that. So we gave a price, and the price that we gave was by far the lowest price in the RFP. And then we told them, hey, like this is how it is. And then we also showed them how they can take these use cases and everything they've done and how they can scale them everywhere else. They understood us really well. And, and what they did was they gave us one of the buildings, which was the River South building. And then we lost the Vancouver building to someone else that probably had a way higher price. But they were just like, okay, we want to make sure that code they're still small, but they took a risk on us and they took a huge chance. And then right away, we proved to them within the first 2 months at River South that we have the technical chops, we have the industry knowledge, and then we also have the technology to go behind it, because we had a tool from day 0, not day 10, that really helped put the building profile together, which is our MyMSI tool. They saw it, and then within 2 months, they made the change in Vancouver as well. And they said, you know what, we're good. We're just going to go with code everywhere else. So they gave us that.
Nice. Oh, man, you had to feel great about that, huh? Wow, that is so cool. The scalability of the reason you guys are able to scale so well is, if I'm understanding correctly, is because, well, you build it once in the cloud, then you can deploy it across a bunch of different instances, where if you're trying to do it at every building, you have to do the same thing at every single building, right? Is that where you get a lot of the savings?
Yeah, yes. And you have your cloud integrations, you have your typical systems within the building, and then there's some of the systems you may need like some kind of a gateway, right? We're gateway friendly. We can use a Niagara, or we can use something else. Or now with the Distech Apex is coming around, especially for the smaller locations, you can use different solutions, but there's the local APIs that have through security and other things. We have those at 60 to 70%, to where you still need to do some kind of enabling.
Customization or whatever. Yeah.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Okay.
But it's definitely, most of our platform is as enterprise as can be, which helps scale from a pricing perspective, where it's a lot more cost effective, and then it also helps us go to market now and offer it not just to end users like enterprises, but let our channel partners and really take the same model like they did Niagara at on-prem, now take code to the cloud and start to offer that, so they can do more buildings at the same time.
They can cover a much, much bigger area for sure. And so you just the deployment you save money on, but also, man, you got tools like for an owner, right? Where he can sit there with a phone and he can track what the contractors and the subcontractors are doing, right? So is that part of what you guys offer as well? So that's got to be a huge piece for people, I would think.
Yeah, so I think how we see the space right now is that everybody's starting to get smarter and really understanding what they need for their buildings, regardless if you're Apple or if you're Quadrille or Bedrock or different, or like a Thomas Duke that's a smaller property manager in a state. That what really helps us go further is that we don't just give you like 2% for your building. Right off the bat, we give you 60 to 70%, right? So if you, depending on what you have in your building, yes, all buildings are different, but really all buildings are the same. They have people coming in those buildings. They have systems. You just may have not gotten lucky, or you have some older systems. So then with some, there's only so much you can do, or nothing. But then there's at least 1 or 2 systems, whether it's your work order or your operational software or your BMS or something else, that you can start to integrate. And then when you start to integrate that, we have the right modules that can give you value faster for what type of user that you want and need. And that's what helps us go far, because you can take that and then plan, and still plan with the same software, and allow your software to lead what type of hardware or what type of solutions you should be picking that's going to help you scale.
Etrit, because you've done this for a while, on average, what do you guys typically save an owner when it comes? Have you got a feel for the percentage you might be saving them on deployment?
Yeah, on the deployment side, like, our pricing is extremely scalable, right? So like when we save owners, depends on the type of owner, but like altogether from an ROI perspective, though some, depending on where owners are looking to go, right? Some see huge value. Bedrock, everyone talks about Bedrock, right? Bedrock's been a leader for a long time, even before code came into place. They've always had a vision. And then Quadrille, same thing. But now what we save them is depending on what solutions we're integrating, but operationally, we save them huge impact. So it's either in making sure that your top people can see much more. So you need 1 for 10, or from an energy perspective, 20 to 30, at times 40%, sometimes less. And then from other solutions perspective, they're not buying as many front ends inside the building, because those are really like manual. They're just pictures at the end of the day that get old. So like they're saving from that perspective, and continuing to keep evolving on that and deploying faster. So ongoing plus CapEx, we're usually saving them at least 30%. At least
30%.
Not much more.
Wow. That's awesome. That is absolutely awesome. Then you guys also, don't you do something with digital twins and all that help with predictive maintenance?
Yeah, within our platform, you can command and control, but also what we do is we started with a Google ontology, but we've added much more flexibility into Google ontology and more systems and more definitions. So that way, when you do bring in data points, into the platform, and you want to turn on your energy optimizations, it will tell you what data points what equipment you can actually turn on and what data points are missing for equipment or systems. So that way it doesn't cause any issues, right? So it's not just like the side platform that's read only. And then we can put your sequence of operations in there, start to run digital commissioning, and then tie that also with your FDD plus our BI tool. And why we combine these together is because you have the full flexibility of seeing, you've brought in maybe 1,000 pieces of equipment or devices. Some could be BMS, some could be other things. Out of those 1,000, really only 800 you can do something with, and 200 are missing the data points that when it was programmed, they're either in the controller or they're in that JACE or wherever else. So it tells them what to do, or, hey, look, you've brought all these things in. It like to run predictive maintenance or to run like some of these tools, there's still maybe one more step to take to really see impact. And what people don't realize, actually, they realize it more now, but like that alone is huge value, right? Because you're not just turning random things on and causing more problems, but you're doing it right. And then you're continuously doing it right. And then whoever that end user is learning from data, not just from, hey, I got this graphic tool that's telling me my fan is spinning.
Yeah, no, that can be so misleading at times. All right, Etrit, man, this is really fascinating. So walk me through, do you typically interface with the building owner or the integrator or both? So if somebody's listening to this podcast, how do they engage with you? Walk them through the steps.
Yeah, I appreciate that. We have obviously our direct line, right? We had no choice but to start with our direct line because it's hard to convince our industry that, hey, there's something new and you got to go use it, because it no fault to our industry. And the reason for that is they can only learn so many systems with 10 to 5,000 people, right? They have to make money. So we had to start beating system integrators to turn system integrators into channel partners. And now we've been beating MSIs, or at least competing with them so they can see it, to turn them onto the platform. So we have our direct line that handles mostly like really enterprise clients, like very large clients that if we bring them on globally, then we can start to use our channel partner line and let them do more deployments, pre-qualify them, so they can have an opportunity to get not just the software side, but also service, intelligent service, not just like, hey, I'm doing your service every month, but then more retrofits, more installations. And it also tells them when they're signed up and certified now, it specifically tells them, starts to give them scoring of equipment and buildings that they see is right and it makes sense. And it helps them start to pick, hey, should I actually start selling more IoT, or should I maybe sell some Distech or Schneider or Vicon or something else, right? It can give them those kind of scores.
Yeah, no, very cool. Essentially, Code Labs is a software that overlays pretty much on anybody's system, right? So as long as you have some sort of API access or whatever, then you guys can work with anybody's system. Is that accurate?
That's exactly it. Our industry, again, like I said a little bit earlier, that's what we are becoming. And we're becoming really more like that cloud supervisor that's needed to go further now and to solve more and more for the shortage in workforce, and then to help bring in the right talents like that are like data engineers and also talented individuals that will start to see this industry as a future thinking industry, because it's really interesting. There's a lot that you can learn and so much opportunity here.
Man, Etrit, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you coming on the show for us. Final thing, best piece of advice you've ever heard, best piece of advice you've ever given.
Oh man, that's a really good one. The best piece of advice, I've heard a lot of really good advice, and we're lucky to have the right people around us who truly care. But really the best piece of advice that I've always heard is failure is not an option, really. You're going to continue to fall and you're going to continue to get something wrong, but humans are very understanding and they're forgiving if you meant to do the right thing and you change it and you do it right.
Yeah, people can feel that, right? When you got to good
absolutely.
intentions, and they'll give you a break. I love that. All right, best piece of advice. Give me a piece of advice.
I think from a piece of advice perspective, it's never too late. It's literally never too late. So no matter where you are or what you're doing, like it's literally never too late. You can always change.
Love it, man. Love it. All right, my good friend, what's the best website for people to reach you guys at?
Yeah, codelabs.com. Just very simple. You can reach us there. You can feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn or just send us an email, etrit@codelabs.com. Feel free. Would love to connect with more and more people from this industry or that are interested in the industry.
What a great story, man. I'm really proud of you guys, really happy for you, man. We're glad we have you in our industry and in our country. So, man, great story, man. Thank you so much for sharing.
I appreciate it very much, and thank you very much. You do a lot for the industry, so appreciate
Very welcome, my friend. Okay, that's it. Another week on Control Talk Now. Remember, be bold, stay in control, stay relevant. And as Hunter Thompson used to say, buy the ticket, take the ride. And as Kenny Smyers used to say, indeed. We'll see you next week.